my god, y'all, that's just your fault for not doing your research. Eat at home, guys. If it ain't free, I ain't going. Just free stuff everywhere. Hey y'all, it's Thomasina. Welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, thanks for tuning in. If you're interested in learning more about all that New York City has to offer, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and turn on the post notifications so that you're notified every time I upload a new video. So if even after watching all of my videos encouraging you to move to New York City, if that's something you want to do, you're still a little bit cautious about moving here because of how expensive it can be, this video is for you. I'm going to be sharing some tips for how you can save money in New York City. First things first, transportation in New York City can get really expensive. So my first tip to you would be to buy a monthly Metro pass as opposed to paying for a single day pass or a single trip every time you want to use the bus or every time you want to use the subway. As of right now, the monthly Metro pass is $127 for the entire month. It's a 30-day pass, and each individual ticket is $275, I believe. If you compare the one-time $127 fee for 30 days to the $275 each time you pay, you're gonna get a better value from that 127 Metro card, especially if you're someone who uses the MTA system frequently. When you first get a Metro card, I believe you have to pay for the actual card itself, and then you have to pay to add value onto the card. So I've literally been using this same MTA card since I moved to New York City, and that was December of 2019. So I've been using this same Metro card for about a year and some change, and I haven't had to pay for another Metro card. So yeah, if you know you're going to be using MTA often, just go ahead and pay the one-time $127 fee each month, and it will definitely save you a lot of money when compared to paying $275 every time you need to swipe your card. And also, if you think about it, if you are, let's say, starting out your trip on the 3 train and then you have to transfer to a J train at a totally different station, you have to swipe your card once and the transfer is not included. So you'll have to swipe your card once at the 3 train, and then if you're transferring to the J train, you'll have to swipe again. So that definitely adds up. So yeah, just go ahead, pay the one-time fee each month, and you'll save a lot of money doing that. Because the transit system in New York City is so extensive, you want to take advantage of it. Literally no other city in the US has a transit system as thorough, I guess, as New York City. I recommend limiting your use of Uber and Lyft. Although like Uber and Lyft are amazing companies, they're super useful, they can be really expensive in New York City, and it adds up. The only time that I use an Uber or Lyft is if I am coming from the airport at night and I don't feel like navigating the bus system to get back home, or if I'm carrying something really heavy and I don't want to lug all of that on the bus or the subway. So that's when I'll take an Uber and Lyft, or unless somebody else is paying for it. But if I'm paying for it, I just try not to use it at all. If you're someone who likes using Lyft and Uber, I will say download both apps and create an account for both apps. And when you're planning on going somewhere, check the cost on each app, because there are some times where Lyft will be more expensive than Uber, and there are some times where Uber will be more expensive than Lyft. So it helps if you have both apps. Another little tip about using Uber or Lyft is try to get your ride a little bit earlier than when you have to leave, because there's an option on both Uber and Lyft where you can save a little bit of money if you agree to wait maybe like 10 to 15 minutes extra. So if you are willing to wait for that amount of time to save maybe a couple of dollars extra, if you have to leave at 2:30, maybe call your ride at like 2:15, so it gives you that space of time that you'll have to wait, and you're gonna be saving yourself like $2 or $3. And it seems like a little bit in that moment, but if you're someone who habitually uses Lyft and Uber, it definitely adds up, and it will eventually end up saving you a lot of money. Moving on, if you are planning on flying out of New York City, the cheapest airport to fly out of is Newark Liberty International Airport, abbreviated as EWR Airport. And then after that, the next cheapest is LaGuardia, and then after that, the most expensive is JFK. So if you can get a flight out of EWR or LGA, you'll probably be saving the most money, but you have to factor in the cost of getting to the airport. So like for instance, for me, JFK is the closest airport to me, so I usually try to just book departing flights from JFK, because once you factor in the cost of getting to the airport, it kind of cancels out, if that makes sense. So let me see if I can explain it. So you basically want to play a numbers game. For example, JFK is the closest airport to me, and although most flights coming out of JFK are the most expensive, once I combine the cost of getting to the airport, let's say if I use Uber or Lyft, plus the cost of the actual flight, that total cost is actually saving me more money when compared to if I factor in the cost of me taking an Uber or Lyft all the way to Newark just to get that cheaper departing flight ticket out of EWR Airport. So you just have to play a numbers game to see how much is it going to cost you to actually get to the airport plus how much it's costing you for the actual ticket. Now some people might say, oh, that's not that big of a deal, I'll pay the extra $40, I'll pay the extra $100. But if you're someone like me who travels often, that little bit adds up. So I always want to make sure that I'm getting the best deal when buying my flight tickets. Another thing to consider is that if you're leaving directly from New York City, you can get to the airport via bus or subway. Now, if you take the bus, there's a specific bus stop at the airport where you can avoid taking the air train. Now, taking the air train is expensive, and it's even gone up in price since I've been here, and it's only been like a year. So I think now air train is like $7.75, so that's $7.75 going into the airport and then $7.75 coming out of the airport once you return. But if you take the bus to the airport, the MTA bus, there's a specific bus stop there that takes you straight to the airport so that you avoid paying for the air train. But if you take the subway to the airport, you'll have to transfer from the subway to the air train, and once you make that transfer, then you'll have to pay for the air train. So I say all that to say, if you have access to a bus that takes you to, and this is specifically for JFK, I didn't say that, this is for JFK. If you have access to a bus that takes you to JFK, take the bus, guys. If you don't want to take like Uber or Lyft, you don't want to take the subway, take the bus to avoid paying that $7.75 air train fee. And again, it's just going to save you a little bit of coin. Like, yeah. Y'all always talking about how New York is so expensive, but then y'all don't want to go the extra little step to save you a couple dollars. This is an easy step if you have access to a bus. Now, granted, if you don't have access to a bus, then you're just going to have to bite the bullet and pay for the air train or take an Uber or Lyft and just pay for the Uber or Lyft. When I first moved to New York, I was still like traveling in and out of New York, and I was taking the air train a lot, and that was adding up. And also when you pay for the air train, you have to pay for a whole nother one of these. So you're paying for these plus the air train fare, and it just added, it was adding up. So I took the bus one time and realized that it dropped me off right at the airport, and I didn't even have to pay for the air train. And after that, like, my life was changed. I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna start taking the bus from here on out because now I know I don't have to pay the air train fee. So, pro tip. And lastly, on transportation in New York City, if you want to save money, just walk. Just walk. As a matter of fact, I've lost weight, and I think it's just because I choose to walk everywhere. A 30-minute walk in North Carolina would be like insane, but a 30-minute walk in New York is like not even that big of a deal because there's so much to see, people everywhere. Put on your headphones and just power walk it out, and like it literally flies by. So yeah, the last transportation tip for you guys is just walk. The only time I won't walk is if it's raining or snowing, just because it gets really gross in the city and ain't nobody got time to be dealing with that. But yeah, for the most part, I just choose to walk. Simple as that. So yeah, that's that on New York City transportation. Moving on to housing. Obviously, one way you can save money on New York City housing is to have roommates. Like, literally, there are people in New York City in their 30s and 40s and even 50s with roommates, you guys. It is not that big of a deal. There's no reason for you to feel bad about it. Like, that is just how people make do in the city. Granted, if you ballin' like that and you don't really care about saving money, go get yourself a 1-bedroom apartment. Go get yourself a studio. But if that's your deal, maybe you shouldn't be watching this video. But if you are trying to, I guess, save yourself a little bit of money, get roommates, guys. And it's an awesome opportunity to network. It's an awesome opportunity to make friends and more connections in the city. And best of all, you're saving money. Another way to save money is to cut out cable costs. I don't even think, do people even use cable anymore? I don't know. With things like Netflix and Hulu and Amazon and this other little thing. I think it's called Roku or something like that, but it's just a substitute for having cable. Just use a streaming service because you're gonna wind up spending a lot less money to pay for an annual streaming service account when compared to what you would pay for cable up here. So yeah, just cut out the cable, scratch it, you don't need it. I don't even think people still use that anymore. Another way to save money within the housing category of New York City is to avoid broker's fees altogether. So when you're looking at apartment listings or room listings, most of the time it's going to list within the description whether or not there's a broker's fee added, and you want to just avoid any listing that has a broker's fee. So what a broker's fee actually is a commission charged by the agent listing the property. So it's the fee that they charge for connecting the landlord to the potential tenant. So that's in addition to whatever you're paying for rent, and that's in addition to like first month's rent and the deposit or whatever. So it's an additional fee. It's usually 12 to 15% of the annual rent. And so yeah, that adds up, and it's just an extra cost that can be easily avoided if you just avoid listings that list a broker's fee. And trust me, there are plenty of apartments and plenty of rooms that do not have a broker's fee. If you're paying a broker's fee, that's just your fault for not doing your research. So thank God you have me. Moving on to shopping in New York City. I would say the number one way to save money in New York City in regards to shopping is to eat at home, guys. Eat at home. I can't stress that enough. I think the thing that I probably spend the most money on here in New York is eating out. Like, if you follow me on Instagram, which you should follow me on Instagram at Thomasina Myrisa, I'm at a new restaurant like every day, it seems like, just because I personally do not enjoy cooking. But if you want to save money, you guys, do your grocery shopping for the month or do your grocery shopping like bi-weekly and eat at home. In regards to grocery shopping, you do not have to shop at the most expensive places like Whole Foods. Even though Whole Foods is great, if you're trying to save money, it may not be the grocery store for you. So you want to shop at places like Aldi's. Aldi's is my like chef's kiss. Aldi's is so cheap, and like the stuff is quality as well. So you know how people say you get what you pay for? Like Aldi's is one of those grocery stores where even though it's hella cheap, like it's still quality items. You want to shop at places like Trader Joe's. You guys, don't kill me for this, but I have never shopped at Trader Joe's, and I think I have like FOMO because literally everybody in New York shops at Trader Joe's, and I just could never bring myself to do it because the lines here are insane. But Trader Joe's is amazing, super healthy and quality food for the low. So yeah, you want to shop at places like Aldi's and Trader Joe's, and Target is all right every now and then, but compared to the other two, Target is a little bit more expensive. As far as like other items, Burlington is an amazing place. What's the one? Marshall's. These are cheaper department stores where you can find like everything for the low. You don't have to pay top dollar for these things because they're literally at Burlington and Marshall's for like $3. So yeah. Oh my God, y'all. Why did it take me an entire year to realize this? If you want to save money when it comes to like grocery shopping in New York City, get yourself a Brita filter. Doesn't that seem like the most simple and minuscule purchase? Like before I got my Brita filter, I was paying for like the 24 or 32 cases of water, and I drink a lot of water, so I was going through them like all the time. And in New York City, there's a upcharge for the use of plastic bottles. So let's say the whole case of water is like $5, then you'll pay an additional like $2.50 for each water bottle in the whole container. So I was paying like $6, upwards of $6 for this case of water each time. And what you can do, a lot of grocery stores give you the option to bring the water bottles back after you've drunk the water, obviously, but you can bring the water bottles back and then they'll give you cash back for donating the water bottles. I was doing that for like the first basically the first year of me living in New York, and it was just a lot of work. And then once the panorama hit, they stopped taking the water bottles just because I guess germs and stuff, and so I was left there with all these water bottles that I ended up just throwing in the trash. Ultimately, a Brita filter will just save you money because you don't have to continuously pay that upcharge for using plastic water bottles, and the filters last for so long. Like when I bought my Brita filter, I bought like 3 extra filters just in case, like when I had to change them out, and I still haven't needed to change my filter. So yeah, Invest in a Brita filter, stop buying the cases of water bottles, and you're saving the environment, so that's a plus. In regards to shopping in New York City, you want to shop off season, and I think this can be applied to any location. I recently just learned this, but obviously when we are in spring and summer, the winter and fall items that they have on the rack are marked down significantly because nobody is shopping for that stuff during that time because it's spring and summer. Like, why would you be shopping for a winter coat in the summer? But that is the time to do it, you guys, because again, the prices are marked down. So spring, summer, you want to be shopping for your fall, winter wardrobe. Fall, winter, you want to be shopping for your spring and summer wardrobe. Quick and easy, bada boom, bada bang. Save you money. When you leave the house and you know you're going to be out for like an extensive amount of time, try to eat before you leave the house, and if you can, bring snacks with you, because if you leave the house on an empty stomach and you step outside, you smell the aroma of the dollar pizza on the corner, and you smell the aroma of that mom and pop Caribbean restaurant on the other corner, and you just get a hit in the face back to back to back of all these different smells of amazing foods, you are definitely going to spend money and you are going to eat out when you could have just ate at home. So highly recommend before you leave the house, eat something, because I am so guilty of leaving the house before eating and telling myself I'm not going to spend money, I'm not going to spend money, I'm not going to spend money. The moment I step outside, I'm like, oh, I have to get a slice of pizza. Oh, I have to get this. I have to get this. I have to get this. And it adds up, guys. It adds up. One of the best things about New York City is the food, guys, but don't get caught up. Don't get caught up. Don't do it. Eat before you leave the house, because it would definitely help in those urges, because you will definitely have the urges. If you absolutely must eat out, you know, your friends want to do a little boozy brunch action or whatever, you don't have to pick the most expensive place ever in Manhattan. Like, people always want to try to keep up with the Joneses, or they saw this really expensive cute place on TikTok and they just have to go. You literally don't have to go. There are so many dope, like, low radar, less costly restaurants in like Brooklyn, Astoria, Harlem. Basically, I'm saying branch out and explore places other than like Manhattan. Granted, there are some dope restaurants that are like cost effective in Manhattan as well, but most people always like to focus on the most expensive, most popular, most bougie restaurants in Manhattan to go to, and I'm saying you don't necessarily always have to do that. And I'm guilty of this because I rarely spend time in Brooklyn. Like, I'm usually always in Manhattan, so this is something that I'm trying to work on as well. But there are so many like cute mom and pop shops in Brooklyn that are like way cheaper, but the food is like amazing, that you could go to. So I would just say do your research. Don't be afraid to branch out a little bit. Don't be afraid to leave your borough. I know everybody likes to stick to their own little borough, but there's so much to see in New York City, and you don't have to spend an arm and a leg to experience it. So if going out to eat is something that is like a non-negotiable for you, like me, I have to go out to eat at least once a week. But again, I try to pick places that are not like $50 bajillion to eat at, and I usually have good experiences each time. All right, next we want to talk about social life in the city. I don't have one because I don't have friends, and you guys know this already. You all are my friends. But if you do have friends in the city, you guys should really take advantage of the free things to do in New York City. So like, when compared to North Carolina, you guys, New York City has way more access to free activities. Like, when I was in North Carolina, I was pretty much paying for everything that I did. But since moving up here, you guys, if it ain't free, I ain't going. Kidding, but there is just so many opportunities for free things. I'm like, why would I pay to go somewhere when I can literally go for free? For example, like, there are so many dope museums and cultural arts centers here in the city, and they have specific days where you can go for free. And also, a really cool thing about New York City is that they have membership packages to where you can pay like an annual membership fee and then have access to all the activities for the entire year for free. So for example, I think there's an annual membership for like the NYC museums. So you can pay for an annual membership and then have access to all the museums in NYC for free when you choose to go. There's also a like cultural pass type thing where if you have a Brooklyn Public Library card or a Queens Public Library card or a New York Public Library card, you'll have access to get the cultural pass for free. So yeah, just research, Google, whatever. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but just know you have access to a cultural pass if you have a public library card, and you can also just research which days are free admission for whichever activity you're looking for. Another thing you want to do is utilize the Meetup app. If you haven't checked out the video, I made an entire video about how you can make friends and meet people in New York City. I'm going to link it somewhere up there. But in that video, I also mentioned this app called Meetup, where people basically host groups for people with like similar interests. And a lot of these meetups and activities that they plan are free. So for instance, I really love roller skating, and so I've joined a couple of roller skating meetups, and we all just get together, meet up at a certain park or location or whatever, and get to skate around and enjoy each other's company for free. There are basically just a lot of space and opportunities for you to join communities that share the same interests as you, and you guys get together and do the things that you love for free. So again, it's just free stuff everywhere. You just have to look for it. I think this is the last thing on my list, but I would say New York City is like a fit city. A lot of people are very active, and like fitness and health are things that are very important to most people that live here in the city. And so obviously when you move up here, you're gonna probably be tempted or like encouraged to get a gym membership. And I would say if you are getting a gym membership, do not be influenced to buy the biggest and most expensive gym membership that exists. Granted, if you can afford it and that's important to you and that's a luxury that you don't mind splurging on, do that. Go get a freaking Equinox membership. Do what you gotta do. But there are also cheaper gyms like Blink Fitness or Planet Fitness where you can get a gym membership for like $10 a month. That's significantly cheaper than an Equinox membership. If you absolutely need a gym membership, try Blink or Planet Fitness. Of course, people have their preferences on like equipment and blah 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 blah, but I've had memberships at both, and they're both good enough to get the job done. Another option, investing in a city bike membership. If you're someone who prefers working out via cycling or biking, the city bike membership would definitely be beneficial to you. Also, another thing that I love about New York City is that because health and fitness is so important here, literally almost all of the parks have like outdoor gym setups, if that makes sense. So they have like pull-up bars, just all kinds of things where you can do like workouts on. Personally, I don't use them, especially because of like the panorama with like germs and stuff, but a lot of people still use them. And if you're the kind of person that likes outdoor workouts, these parks will be like perfect for you, and you could just use the parks instead of paying for a whole monthly gym membership. Granted, when it gets cold outside, you're probably not going to want to be working out outside. So you could do a thing where half the year you do your workouts outside, and the other half of the year you pay for a gym membership. So whatever works for you, whatever you prefer, but just know that those options are available to you and for the low. So that's about it. I threw a lot at you guys, but you're welcome. I know a lot of people have a fear of moving to New York City because of how expensive it is, and a lot of people who live in New York City don't even know about these options. So I just wanted to share them with you all. Hopefully you found them helpful, and hopefully if you live here in New York City, you will start to utilize these options to save yourself a little bit more money. So as always, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you're interested in learning more about what New York City has to offer, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because don't be just watching and lurking and watching my videos and not subscribing, because like you're gonna be back. But anyways, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye. 'Cause I'm not just a pretty girl.